Hello, my name is Shane Latham, and this is the second recording for the introduction of the Wisdom Spiral book, which just came out this week. This is January 17th today, and been working on this for about 5 years. So there's the first video that explains a little bit about it. Basically, the premise of the book in a sentence is that we live in this struggle, that at every moment, with every decision, we are either building an empire on earth or an impact in eternity. And the idea that's described in the artwork here, and this is O, the first of three books. You have here the O from the Wisdom Spiral. You can point at it right here like that. The O stands for opportunity, then relationships and influence, and how God has given each of us on a daily basis opportunities to seize. Sometimes those opportunities come as resources that we have, or responsibilities, experiences we go through, or ideas that come to us. And all opportunities are the same in the sense that you have to seize them through faith risk. And embedded in opportunities are the gold of this planet called relationships, because it's all about relationships. And when we treat people correctly, we acquire influence, which is necessary for the next level of opportunity. So I read a few pages in the beginning, in the first clip, so I just want to keep on reading. We're in chapter 1, called A Look in the Mirror. In the first pages, I talked about how I developed this habit of looking in the mirror of the airplane bathroom as I flew across from the United States to Brazil back and forth. Growing up as a kid, we did that trip a lot. My parents are missionaries down there. My wife and I are missionaries there now. And how I would freeze a frame of life and just take a evaluation and see where I'm at as I look in that mirror. And so after the first reading, I got myself to 1992 here, and of looking in the mirror, and I'll just pick up reading there. It's on page 7 of the book. Despair says you cannot escape your past. The best you can do is give in to your lusts and try to live a pleasure-filled present. Hope sounds something like this. You were made for a significant life, to make an impact for eternity, and you can do it. In May 1992, I saw a different man in the mirror, still bewildered with the story God was enabling, yet with the smile of someone overwhelmed with hope, which said, "I can't believe you just got married 8 days ago." Aaron and I were headed to an 8-month interim, during which we hoped God would show us if mission work would be the thing for us. 3 years after that trial run, on the other side of countless miles of over-the-road fundraising, on Valentine's Day, 1996, I saw in a Brazil-bound mirror a 25-year-old artist Bible teacher wondering if the plans they had recently laid out on a Taco Bell napkin would actually produce an exponential multiplication of non-religious churches. In those snapshots, my hair gradually disappeared, and a long goatee formed on my face. And it was always the same boy, standing there asking the same root questions. What am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my name? I returned to my seat, and the small screen on the back of the chair in front of me glowed with data on airspeed, altitude, and the hours until our arrival in São Paulo's Guarulhos Airport. It was May 2004, and we were returning from a 6-month report, refuel, and recruit session in America. Beyond the wrestling match with 11 duffel bags at customs in São Paulo lay the final connection flight to Porto Alegre, Brazil's southernmost capital, and a 20-minute drive to Gravataí, the suburb of 285,000 people, where a vibrant church family awaited us, made up of first-generation followers of Christ, from one of the most feared areas of town. Our community church had plans to multiply into 3 other neighborhoods. A previous mayor, who had become a federal congressman, had recently declared publicly that our small church was in the business of closing schools of crime. On that last leg of the return trip, I considered what Aaron and I had been discussing. With all the needs in the world, how do we know when the time has come to move on to another place? Our mission work had been marked by unpredictable God-sized occurrences. Once we prayed to meet the manager of a gym that we hoped to use for a family event, and he unfortunately totaled his car by hitting a cow in front of our house that very night. After helping him, he offered free use of the facility. Another time I came away from a church network meeting with 2 big tasks: First, I needed to contact the local education department and get a renewal on the agreement to use the Hinkle Public School for Sunday services. Second, I was to speak to the city about how to get into the Boa Vista School with weekend classes like hip hop, guitar, computer lessons, soccer club, etc. After the meeting, I ate lunch and lay down for a nap, planning to visit the office of the Secretary of Education later that day. I was awakened by the phone. It was Jessica from the education office. Pastor Shane, we had a meeting this morning and I was given 2 tasks to contact you about. We want to extend the agreement for your church to use the Hinkle School, this time for a year. And 2, we're having problems opening the Boa Vista School for the community on weekends. We're hoping that you could use your influence with the leadership of that school and get our weekend programming started. The captain's voice commanded all passengers to return to their seats for a final approach to the Salgado Filho International Airport. I could imagine the noisy teens who called us Mom and Dad, and the inevitable dog pile we'd have to go through in the main terminal. During our first 6 years in Gravataí, people were constantly around our table as we served the community with a life-on-life philosophy. In spite of the 6 unresolved murders which had taken place on our dead-end street during those early years, and even more if you count the ones a few blocks away close to our church, we enjoyed a miraculous safety. One of the tensions prompting our consideration of taking our ministry somewhere else in the world was a real sense of being at home, almost a feeling of guilt for being too comfortable. The plane landed, and when we descended the escalator towards the baggage claim, we were surprised to see our Brazilian partner Rogério waiting there in the restricted area with the mayor of our city at his side. There were people to help us get our suitcases and a torrent of noisy church members just beyond the dividing glass. My father emerged from the crowd with a nervous expression on his face. "You have to come to the front of the airport now." Flanked by Dad and the mayor, we were pushed through the crowd past the automatic doors of the airport, where we were greeted by a 50-person marching band playing Twist and Shout under a large Welcome Home banner. We pulled the kids close to us and sank to the curb with tears and laughter. I finally managed to get close enough to the mayor's ear to say, "Thank you. I know you have done this for us, but in truth, someday you'll find out that this was really done to lift the name of Jesus Christ." That was the aha moment, when the words opportunity, relationships, and influence began to bounce around in my head as I asked the question, how did we get here? The next subchapter is called Surprised by Influence, and it basically talks about how we began to have all these opportunities, doors of opportunities open up for our life in Gravataí, southern Brazil, but also how in the midst of all that rising of influence, God set some things in our path where we were soon trying to recover out of depression. And so that comes in the next 2 subchapters, Surprised by Influence, and then the next one is the 3 R's. And basically the story of the first chapter talks about our experiences in Brazil and how God has shown us that He is in the business of rescuing and restoring people, even us, and how through every opportunity that we have, there are relationships, whether it's a tragedy, or whether it's just a victory. There are relationships that are there waiting to be harvested by service. And as we serve other people in the name of Jesus Christ, we acquire that influence necessary to make an impact in eternity. But all along the way, we will be tempted to, instead of using things to love people and lift God's name with our influence, we will be tempted to love things, use people, and lift our own name for fame. That's why money, sex, and fame are so powerful in our society, because they're really the flip side of what God created us to desire. So that's kind of what we develop in the book. I'll probably have a third excerpt here from chapter 1. Hope to see you then. The book comes out later on this week. This is today is Monday, January 17th, 2011. You can check out more about the book on the Facebook page called The Wisdom Spiral Book. And there'll be updates. There's the full chapter, first chapter printed there. And there's discussion groups. And so feel free to check out there. And hopefully we'll connect. God bless.